Hello, welcome back to my channel. I have a question for you. Have you ever been at a bonfire or a campfire and someone says, I need you to light the fire? And you say, sure. Do you have any matches? And then they say, no. You guys say, well, do you have a lighter? And they say, no. And you say, what do you have? And then they pull out either one of these. I haven't never heard no one say that to me. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen anybody use them besides me. So, it's very unlikely. But if someone ever did pull them out, or if you wanted to be the cool person at the fire that knows how to use one of these, after this video, you will be able to, you either have an idea how to use it, or you'll be able to use it. But like anything else, it takes practice. And once you learn how to, you'll be the cool man at the fire that knows how to do a fire with flint lock, or flint rock. The way I started is I start with a little hole. There's a few reasons for this. You want your hole to be downwind, so that way when the wind's blowing, it blows your sparks into the fire or into the spot that you're trying to burn, versus if you're against the wind and the wind is blowing towards you, that means when you're casting your sparks, it's blowing it back at you and not hitting what you're trying to burn. And two, when you have it in the ground, you can control the wind that's blowing over it, and you can keep your tinder and everything in one spot, because when you're beginning, or even when you've done it for a while, you tend to sometimes miss the sparker and you'll hit your stuff and knock it around. And if you knock it too far away, then you got to keep going closer and closer. Or if you dig a little bit of a hole, it all stays right there in one spot. And then you would build your fire above it and then build your bigger fire after. Or you could do it before, but I'm not going to burn a fire, so I'm not really worried about like stacking stuff above it or around it to get it to burn. This is just mainly a demonstration on how to start a fire. I've prepared my hole. I move on to get the stuff that I need to burn. Now, the stuff I show in this video is stuff I scavenged around the place that I'm at. I know there are a lot better things to use for tinder, but I don't have it locally sourced in the spot that I'm at. So this is all 100% from the area and not something I bought or something I went a long ways for. It's something local. Now, I'm sure for the majority of everybody, I don't have to say this to, but for the one or two person that doesn't think about it, do not use anything green. Anything green or live or breaking tree limbs off of live trees, that's a no-go when it comes to a fire. It takes a lot of work to burn something that's green or alive. So you want deader the better. The drier the better, the deader the better in case of a fire. Now, got some little things here that I demonstrate with to show. Leaves are not really good for this. They're dry, but when you cast a spark, it hits this when you would be trying to aim for this, but leaves just don't burn the way that they should, or the way you think they would. Now you can crumble them up and they're a good source of fire, but as far as starting one, not really good. But you can't throw it down there to be something else to burn. Sticks are not really good because they're too big and too bulky to try to start. Now, sticks come later when you're trying to burn something, but in a starter fire, it's not really good. The thing that I have here that is local is this like river grass, or it used to be. Now it's dead and dried up. And the thing that makes this useful is it's got all these little thin lines and thin spots in it. So when you break them, this is what you're trying to burn, these little ends. If you can get a couple of these ends burning, then you will have a starting fire. And you're not really so much looking for this right here. This is part of that kind of grass. But this is something good to burn, but it's not something good to be trying to strike a flint to. It's too thick and too evenly. It just won't cut. It won't burn the way that you'd want it to. So you're looking for the ends of it, the little grassy ends. That's what you'd want to soak your tinder with. That's what you'd want to cast your sparks at. What I have done now is I've broken up my tinder and made a little pile in there. I basically just took the little pieces and ripped them up. The smaller the better. I put a little bit of wood in here to help burn it once it gets going. But you just want to take it. The more consistency towards cotton you can make it, the better off you are. You just kind of throw it in there and you pack it down a little bit, but don't have it too tight. But you want to try to do it in a spot where there's little lines and little fiber strode out. Now moving on to the point of this video is the flint rock or flint stick, depending on how you look at it. Now I know this can be intimidating a little bit, but it really ain't that bad. And I'll show you how to use it. Now that I got it out of the box, it comes like this. This is your flint stick, and this is your striker. It comes on a little chain like this, so you'll be able to keep them together. You take this off. Lay it off to the side. Now there's this little black film across it. Well, it's part of the stick itself, but once you get past it and start showing the silver, it gets a lot easier to strike. But at first, it seems kind of hard. Like my other one, like this one, is more worn in. See if I can get it into focus. Yeah, this one's a lot more worn in compared to that one. You see how it's got the silver. And to be honest, it'd probably be a lot easier to start a fire with this worn in one than it would be this brand new one. So I'm going to try with my old one, but I don't know. It depends on, I mean, if I start where you're starting, I'd be using this one instead of this one. So I could just use the newer one. I mean, it don't really matter. I guess I'll use the newer one, and if it doesn't get me very far, then I will use my older worn in one, just so I can show you how to actually light it. But like I said, you're not going to get it on the first try, so it's going to take some practice to get used to it. Now, some people, they slide it very flat, almost flat against it with a little bit of an edge. It can work that way, but really it's up to the fire, or not the fire, but where you're trying to spark it and how fast you're trying to spark it. Because I end up ripping gaps into it because I am more straight up with it when I go to cut. Now there's two types of sparks. There's what I call a wasted spark or wasted strike, and then there's a sizzling sound that is made whenever you go across it. And I'll see if I can make the sound. But you would hold it like this, and something else, you gotta not be afraid of it. You gotta hit it almost like you're mad at it, because cutting it just little slices, you don't get nowhere. And it also depends on your tinder. Like there's tinder out there that is very much easier to light, so it doesn't take as much effort. But for this, it takes a little bit of effort. So I'll show you. But you'd take it and you'd hold it See, that little film is making it hard to cut into. See, there's two kinds of sounds. You're trying to, like, it's hard to just do it like this, trying to do the sound, but you see how it burns? That's what you're looking for, that burning spark. Now that sizzling sound you heard, where it sounded like it was burning for like a second or two, that's what you want to hit when you hit it into your flint, into your tinder, is that sizzling sound, not where it's just lightly striking. You want to hear that burning sound, and that burning sound is what's going to catch. It won't be that, like, just little sparks getting thrown. If you don't hear no sound, then you're not hitting it hard enough, because you're wanting that sizzling burning sound like a lighter, and not like a grinder grinding sparks. You want it to sound like it's trying to burn. So the idea is to hold it as close to your tinder as you can, and just keep striking it, and try to hit a spot that is got a lot of loose ends in it, because the more loose ends there are, the greater your chances of getting it to burn is. Now, if it's long pieces, like, you're trying to aim for the ends of things, like the little end. You don't want to try to aim for the shaft of it. You're looking for the end, because if you can burn that end, the rest will catch on fire. So I had to redo my fire, because when I recorded it, it was at a bad angle, and then I ran out of time, so I had to come back later on in the day. And right now I have to keep an eye on the wildlife, because just on the other side of these little bushes is some wildlife. And if you want to see what it is, you have to stick in for the end, and I'll show you the video of it, of what I had to watch out for. It's nothing dangerous, it's pretty much harmless, but I had to put up my dog, because my dog's dumb enough to go and bite him, and it wouldn't work out for him, so I had to put him up. But the only thing you really missed from the last, outside of the fire not being able to see, was this is the one that came with the one that I was using, the new one, and this is my old one. And look at the size difference. They came from the exact same thing, but this one is much bigger than this one. So I swapped them out and used my old one. You don't really have to have these. You can get you a knife with a serrated edge, like a saw blade edge, and it worked just as good. Most people, that's what they usually do, is have a knife. And I do too, but I just don't have it on me right now. So I used the little starter that came with it. But yeah, I'm going to show you again. Well, you didn't get to see it the first time, so I'm not really showing it to you again. But so I rebuilt my fire, or rebuilt my kindling, and I'm going to hopefully get a better angle of it and show you how to start the fire with this Flint, but I still don't know what to call it really. Fire starter is pretty much what it's called, but I keep wanting to call it a Flint rock or Flint stick, but this fire starter. And you might can hear my dog howling in the background, because I had to put him up, because otherwise he'd get hurt and then he'd be whining for a new reason. So I put him up. Alright, let's start this fire and move on. I got enough serrated edges in there, so it's not wanting to catch as easy as it should. I'll break it down a little bit, it should do better. There it goes. And now you can have your castaway moment and be like, I have made fire. Oh yeah, and that's another reason why I built the hole the way that I did. Is because as I was striking it, I was pushing everything back. And by pushing it back, it won't fall apart. It'll stay up against that wall. And then you don't have to worry about it moving. But like I said, it's not as hard as it looks. It's just practice. The more you practice at something, the better you get at it. And now I pretty much got a fire, so if I was having to cook or if I had to stay warm, I could build on top of that, and then I have a fire. And the positive thing about this, unlike matches and lighters, if a match gets wet, it ruins it. If your lighter gets wet, it's hard to dry out. But yeah, a flint, getting good with one of these is a good thing for an emergency or in damp conditions, or it's just all around a good thing. And if you're able to do it, most likely the people around you ain't able to do it. So but yeah, I'm not really trying to build a fire, so once this burns out, that's pretty much the end. I just wanted to show you that you can do it. You just got to practice, and it's all about your tinder. Like, there's more things out there that lights a lot easier than this. But I just had to do with what I had around me. If you have one and the matches, lighters got wet, then you still be able to have a fire. The biggest key to surviving is thinking outside the box. Because if you think only one way about things, then if that one way is ever broken or lost, then you have no other way. But if you know multiple ways to do the same thing, then if one thing's gone, then most likely you can pick up something else and still do the same thing. But if you don't know how the other thing works, then it might as well not exist. But like I said, I hope you learned something and you enjoyed this. I got several videos on different subjects, and I will make many more videos about different subjects. So if you like what you see, I appreciate a like. If you got suggestions or something you might like to see, and if I can make it work, then I will try it. Until next time. But I'm gonna play the footage of the wildlife right after this. So stick in if you want to see that. But yeah, that's about all I got. How to start a fire with a flint. Peace.